The Alien War Council had never seen anything like it. The footage, intercepted from Earth's primitive but somehow globally connected video grid, looped again in stunned silence. A human, standing calmly in a classroom, arms crossed, surrounded by snarling black creatures, symbiote-esque, biomechanical, and utterly terrifying. But that wasn't the shocking part. Behind the man, towering over him in impossible defiance of physics, stood a roaring, 20-foot-tall bear. A real bear. "Replay that again," High Strategist Croth ordered, his mandibles twitching in disbelief. "At 3.7x magnification. Focus on the human's face." The screen zoomed in. No fear. No panic. The human was annoyed, as if someone had interrupted his coffee break. Meanwhile, on Earth, Mr. Bennett adjusted his tie as the last bell rang. Teaching advanced ethics in Room 3B at Ridgeway High wasn't supposed to involve monsters, extra-dimensional rifts, or genetically reanimated apex predators. But when a cosmic anomaly cracked open over Boise and spilled shadow things into his classroom, Mr. Bennett did what any self-respecting tenured teacher would do. He confiscated their phones and told them to sit quietly or face detention. The shadow creatures hissed, oozing from desks and chairs, their obsidian skin reflecting no light. Kids had already run screaming, but Bennett stood his ground. He didn't believe in chaos. He believed in order, structure, consequences. And he had one more secret, an interdimensional summon linked to an old Soviet experiment buried beneath the Siberian tundra. Something left over from his wilder days, long before PTA meetings and quarterly reviews. He reached into his desk drawer, past paperclips and expired hall passes, and pressed a red button that should not exist in a school building. Somewhere deep beneath a facility in Russia, a cryo-seal shattered. Back in orbit, the alien fleet floated in anticipation. The Zorthans had scouted Earth for decades, saw its political disarray, its fragile ecosystem, its memes, and assumed it would be an easy conquest. Their invasion plan was ready. Assimilation protocols locked in. But after intercepting this latest footage, they hesitated. The footage zoomed out now. The bear emerged, first mist, then muscle, then pure, impossible mass, growling so deeply it shook the camera drone. "Explain the purpose of this bear," Fleet Commander Yulna barked at the linguistics AI. "According to Earth archives, the bear is a symbol of nature's wrath and primal power," the AI translated. "Also, a subject of numerous children's cartoons and honey-related comedies." Commander Yulna blinked both sets of eyes. "So this humor beast obeys him?" The AI paused. "It seems loyal." Inside the classroom, the situation grew more absurd by the second. Mr. Bennett pulled a piece of chalk from his pocket. "Class," he said, looking around at the hissing black creatures seated in human desks, "today's lesson is on mutual destruction. You've entered my classroom uninvited. There are rules. And rule number 1. The bear roared so loudly a fluorescent light burst overhead. "No growling in class." The shadow creatures recoiled slightly, unsure. They were designed for terror, conquest, overwhelming force. But they hadn't been briefed on substitute teachers with grisly bodyguards. The camera drone caught it all. On board the Zorthan ship, the footage froze on Bennett's face, stern, unwavering, a glimmer of something more than confidence. Not madness. Not rage. Something inevitable. "This species," Yulna whispered, voice clicking in awe, "they summon apex beasts from air and keep them as guards in places of learning. Their classrooms are arenas. Their educators, warlocks." The council chamber fell silent again. The invasion window was scheduled in 21 Earth rotations. But now, Croth clicked slowly. "Delay plans. We must investigate further. Perhaps Earth is not the weakling we believed." The footage zoomed out one last time as Bennett casually pulled out a thermos, sipping coffee as the bear towered behind him, waiting for the bell. There was something very wrong, and very dangerous, about this planet. The Zorthan High Council's decision to delay the invasion rippled through the fleet like a shockwave. Every warrior drone, command unit, and infiltration pod paused mid-calculation. Earth was still classified as a Tier 2 civilization, technologically inferior and deeply fractured, but now it carried an asterisk. Meanwhile, Mr. Bennett stood in the still-settling dust of Room 3B. The bear, whom he affectionately referred to as Dimitri, sat on its haunches in the back corner of the classroom, gently sniffing a stack of outdated textbooks. The black, spiky intruders, whatever interdimensional horrors they were, remained frozen in place. Whether it was due to fear or confusion, Bennett didn't care. He'd seen worse in the late 80s. He grabbed a marker and began writing on the whiteboard. Assignment: defined deterrence using historical, philosophical, and now personal examples. He turned slowly to the horde of biomechanical creatures, who were still crouched awkwardly in student desks far too small for their lanky limbs. You may use the bear as a case study. One of the shadow things hissed again. Not a threat, more like a question. Its glowing amber eyes blinked sideways, and then it slowly reached for the nearest pencil with 3 clawed fingers. On the Zorthan mothership, a war room full of tactical analysts reviewed the moment again and again. Every time, they paused at the same spot, the creature learning, writing, responding. "This was not in any of the simulations," murmured General Ta. "The humans are teaching them." Commander Yulna, visibly stressed, paced in small loops. "We sent the Phase 1 probes to instigate psychological warfare. Trauma fog, soul siphons, sensory parasites. Yet they adapt. They domesticated the agents of dread." The footage now showed a follow-up transmission, Bennett handing out pop quizzes. One of the creatures even raised a claw to ask a question. Back on Earth, Principal Hargrave barged into room 3B after a frantic call from a janitor. He froze upon entering, his eyes darting from the massive bear licking a whiteboard to the squat, spiky demon things hunched over quiz sheets. "Bennett," he croaked, "what in God's name is going on here?" "Cultural exchange," Bennett said flatly. "Your grant application's going to look amazing." What are those? Are they part of some weird club?" "They're new transfers. Bit ahead in interdimensional algebra, but they struggle with ethics." Hargrave opened his mouth to respond, and closed it again when one of the creatures raised a claw and politely asked for a red pen. By lunchtime, the creatures had started rearranging desks. One sketched a diagram of something that resembled a Zorthan invasion pod, except it was scribbled over with large red XS and what appeared to be a heart emoji. Dimitri, the bear, had fallen asleep by then, snoring peacefully beneath a motivational poster that read, "Be the change you want to see in the galaxy." At the Pentagon, a covert task force monitored these developments with a mixture of awe and anxiety. The footage went public within 24 hours, too many viral uploads to contain, and what was supposed to be an invasion of Earth spiraled into interstellar confusion. "They're learning," whispered Agent Flores, zooming in on a creature holding a World History for Dummies book. "They're absorbing human philosophy, behavior, maybe even empathy." "Mr. Bennett just gave them homework," said another analyst. "Homework. And it worked." Back on the Zorthan ship, panic turned to paranoia. What if Earth's true power wasn't its weapons or warriors, but its bizarre social rituals and refusal to acknowledge danger? What if humanity's strength was found in their illogical, fearless belief that anything could be taught, anyone could be redeemed? And if a species could tame evil, what else were they capable of? Yulna, once confident, now stared at a wall-sized image of Mr. Bennett sipping coffee, a grizzly bear snoring beside him, and 6 former nightmare creatures scribbling notes about the Magna Carta. "This is no longer a war," she said softly. "This is a test. And we may be the ones failing it." At precisely 4:03 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the Zorthans launched Phase 2, not an invasion, but a challenge. A shimmering rift cracked open above the Earth's upper atmosphere, rippling with unnatural colors. From it descended an obsidian tower, sleek, humming, impossibly tall, hovering 200 feet above a clearing in Yellowstone National Park. Embedded within the base was a holographic projection, a scroll of symbols, half Latin, half Zorthan glyphs, overlaid with an unmistakable directive in English. "Earth's champion will face the trial of minds and monsters. Decline, and be ruled." The world, already abuzz with footage of a high school teacher befriending demonic entities, now erupted in collective panic and awe. The UN held emergency sessions. Reddit crashed 3 times. The Vatican issued a cautiously worded statement. The Pentagon called Mr. Bennett. He didn't answer his phone. He was already in Yellowstone, sipping his usual coffee, Dimitri the bear lumbering beside him, and 3 of the shadow creatures, now dressed in borrowed student hoodies, humming nervously. Bennett squinted at the floating tower and muttered, "Trial of Minds and Monsters. That's not even original. I've written harder midterms." The rift pulsed. The ground beneath the tower twisted, reshaping into a coliseum of alien stone and flickering data, a place not entirely in one dimension. 2 floating orbs emerged, broadcasting the challenge in a dozen frequencies. Your trial begins now. You may select 1 monster and 1 strategy. Failure results in global assimilation. Bennett sighed. He turned to Dimitri. "You ready, big guy?" The bear grunted, then stood on hind legs, stretching to its full 15 feet, muscles rippling. One of the shadow creatures, nicknamed Kevin by the class, nudged Bennett's arm. "Permission to assist, sir?" It rasped in something like English. Bennett looked him over. "Can you follow orders?" Kevin nodded, his horns wobbling slightly. "All right. You're with me. But no laser eyes unless I say so." The Colosseum shimmered again. Opposite Bennett, a Zorthan war priest materialized, 3 meters tall, clad in pulsating armor, a staff crowned with a swirling singularity. Beside him, a snarling chimera, part mantis, part magma, howled at the sky. The crowd, composed of projected alien dignitaries and thousands of intergalactic viewers, went silent. "This is it," the war priest sneered. "A bear, a teacher, and a pet nightmare in a hoodie." Bennett cracked his neck. "I taught middle school for 5 years. You're not even top 5 in my worst Monday mornings." The gong sounded. The chimera lunged, flames pouring from its mouth. Bennett ducked behind Dimitri as Kevin leapt forward, emitting a sonic shriek that distorted reality for half a second. The war priest raised his staff. Bennett hurled a piece of chalk. It clinked harmlessly off the staff's shield. Then exploded. A dazzling burst of white light swallowed the field. When it cleared, the war priest stumbled, dazed, eyes streaming from the chalk blast. Bennett moved in, flipping through a notepad. "Phase 3, he murmured. "Plan Epsilon. Kevin, engage in recursive mimicry." Kevin blinked. Then suddenly split into 2 identical shadow beasts. Then 4, 8, 16. The chimera screeched, spinning in circles, unable to target. Dimitri barreled forward, leaping with impossible speed for his size, and body-slammed the chimera into the Zorthan priest. Kevin's clones swarmed, not to kill, but to immobilize, tying down limbs, pinning claws, humming lullabies they'd learned in detention. The crowd was silent. Bennett stood over the writhing priest and said calmly, "You gave me 1 monster. I brought a team." The tower flickered. The symbols above it shifted rapidly before stopping on one message: "Trial passed. Earth sovereignty confirmed." A blinding flash, then silence. The arena vanished. The rift sealed. And the world, watching from every screen and device, saw Mr. Bennett brush chalk dust from his sleeves, nod at his bear, and say, "Let's get breakfast." "I hear the cafeteria added waffles." The Zorthans didn't retreat. They watched. Because now, the question wasn't how to conquer Earth, but whether they should try to understand it instead. The Zorthan council chambers were quieter than they had been in millennia. The screens, once filled with data feeds, invasion models, and conquest projections, now played one video on an endless loop: a human teacher, with a coffee thermos and a battle-scarred bear, outwitting a war priest in an interdimensional coliseum while a reformed horror demon named Kevin took notes in a hoodie. None of their war simulations had predicted this. Earth had not repelled the invasion through superior firepower, or alien alliances, or quantum sorcery. It had taught the enemy. Ambassador Yelna stood before the high circle of dominion, her usually aggressive tone now tempered with awe. "They are not a threat in the conventional sense. They are chaotic, inconsistent, and bizarre. But they have a power we cannot quantify: cultural resilience. They weaponize absurdity and wield education like a discipline of war." Commander Croth shifted uncomfortably. "So what now? We cancel the conquest because one educator and a bear beat the trial." Yelna tapped a crystalline screen, zooming in on Earth's reaction to the challenge. The humans weren't just celebrating, they were learning from it. Kids wore T-shirts with Dimitri's face and Grismode-activated slogans. Teachers across the world started joking about deploying their own spirit bears. Kevin had gone viral and now had a TikTok account called @HellhoundDenorol. They did more than win, Yelna said. They absorbed the event into their culture. Adaptation at that scale. It's contagiously defiant. They're not just unpredictable. They refuse to be predictable. Back on Earth, Mr. Bennett returned to Ridgeway High to an unannounced fire drill, 2 broken vending machines, and 36 emails asking for interviews. He ignored them all. He wasn't in it for the glory. He was in it for the kids and the pension. Dimitri now had a custom-sized recliner in the back of the classroom, courtesy of the local school board's sudden boost in emergency funding. The shadow creatures, the Transfer Six, as they were now called, attended class regularly, though they still growled when pop quizzes came unannounced. Kevin sat closest to the front. He had started writing poetry. "Mr. Bennett," he rasped one morning, holding up a composition book awkwardly. "Is it normal to feel proud?" Bennett looked over his glasses. "Only when you earn it." "Which you did." Kevin rumbled, then quickly looked away. At lunch, news broke that the Zorthans had declared Earth a culturally volatile sovereignty and placed it under a special classification. Observe, do not engage. The invasion was cancelled, not from fear, but from confusion. Earth, it seemed, didn't respond to threat models. It answered every crisis with chaos, caffeine, and unexpected heart. Later that week, the school hosted an interdimensional culture night. Parents mingled with eldritch entities. PTA moms exchanged casserole recipes with goo-based lifeforms. Kevin's poetry was read aloud to thunderous applause, and some minor spatial rifts that the janitor had to mop up. Mr. Bennett stood off to the side, sipping punch. Dimitri lay curled nearby, a wreath of glow-stick necklaces around his neck. The principal walked up, looking dazed but smiling. "I'll admit," Hargrave said, "I thought you were insane when you summoned a bear. Now you're a hero." Bennett shrugged. "I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just did what every teacher does when things go off the rails." "What's that?" He took a sip, then looked out at the mingling students and extra-dimensional guests. "I kept the class learning." Overhead, satellites beamed footage of the event across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, alien civilizations paused to watch humanity, not in fear, but in fascination. Some began to send messages, not of war, but of curiosity. Because now the universe knew, Earth was not a planet to be invaded. It was a planet to be understood. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, a new galactic proverb was born. If you plan to conquer Earth first, survive a lesson with Mr. Bennett.